the feeling of being anxious, the feeling of being scared. I've noticed that every time I do something in my life, like getting to that feeling and then getting past it is the most rewarding thing you could probably do.
More time that you let sit between whatever your craft is, the more particular and the more perfectionism tries to creep in.
It's hard to really ask people how they feel in a moment about a piece of art. Some people don't even know what they like, until the chicks be, I like that. They be, okay,
me too.
Yeah.
Let's flat out. Big teams, big boys, eh?
My highs and lows, inherit growth, Mr. Deeds. Went from juggling 3 jobs to CEO like I'm Steve. Never been a rotten apple, call me John Appleseed. That's how I bleed, God can see, no other man can judge me. Call him Mike, Mr. International, getting cream. Single mother told me worth, and now I'm worth everything. Went from Wall Street to Abu Dhabi, straight rolling in a Maserati with women that feel exotic. My life too pristine.
Man, you didn't have to do them like that, man. You didn't have to do them like that.
It was film day.
Yeah.
We gotta make a statement.
Exactly. We gotta make a statement. Last
What's
flight out.
going on, man?
Let's flat out.
Welcome to another edition of Last Flight Out podcast. We're your hosts, Mike and Jay. This is the LA edition. Like, subscribe, share, comment on all platforms. You can find us at Last Flight Out podcast. You can follow me as well at If Mike Was Here, and you can follow
At JLubriel26.
Yep.
Today we have 2 incredible guests joining us, natives from Fayetteville, North Carolina, where their friendship began and thrived. First up, we have Brandon Nixon, where during the day he's a highly talented creative strategist at Google, shaping brand narratives and making waves in the industry. Not only that, he's also highlighted his skill set through creative collaborations for brands like Netflix and Footaction. Our next guest needs no introduction to the world of creativity, especially here in Los Angeles. Frank Jackson III, also known as FrankHaveMercy, is a true Renaissance artist. Frank's journey has taken him from North Carolina, Texas, to Los Angeles and New York City and across the globe, collaborating with the likes of Adidas, Nike, and more. He's a photographer, film director, and musical artist, showcasing his talents across various platforms. They're here to share their insights, experience, and the power of their collaborative journey with us today. Welcome to the show, Brandon and Frank.
Appreciate you, John, for having us.
Thank you, man. I'm going to have to put that intro on my highlight tape.
Yo, a lot of research, man.
I dig that, man.
We're looking
Respect
forward
it.
to it, man.
Yeah,
But before we kick off, I just want to say, Brandon, thanks for coordinating this, man.
Of course.
Last time I saw this guy was in London with Lily Bill put us in touch
Yeah.
together, man. So from there, I've always wanted to say I've been a fan of everything you've done from afar, man. I think you should know that because I've always liked your SoundCloud mixtapes, man. I used to use those in the gym. I used to love that stuff, man. So you need to bring those back, by the way.
I
Just
appreciate
leave it,
that,
man.
man.
So thanks for making the time, Frank. Thanks for making the time, Brandon.
Yeah,
Of course,
for sure.
bro.
To kick off the show, we like to do an icebreaker. We call it word association. So, Frank, I'm going to give you one, no solutions. And then Brandon, one is music industry.
Or am I just taking that word?
Whatever first thing that comes out to your mind.
No solutions for me is obviously no excuses, right? But I mean, I guess that's the opposite. But that was my first single that I ever released. That was the name of it. So just hearing that, it just brings back the memories of recording in my kitchen, letting people hear things for the first time, learning how to be vulnerable in those situations, and just being ready for whatever somebody might give me, whatever kind of feedback they might give me back. You know what I'm saying? That's a vulnerable thing to do once you first get into art. So that's the first thing that comes to mind.
For sure, yeah. And when I think about music industry, I would just say the music industry is tough, man. Just from the politics of it all, the connections and network and the favors you got to call in. You could be super talented from an artist perspective or even a business perspective too. And, the opportunities not line up the exact way that you need it to, or it take, years and years of grind and stuff like that. So it's definitely not for the weak. And so that's what, I would say the first thing that comes to mind is tough for sure.
They're building strong out in North Carolina, huh?
Yeah.
For sure, right?
Yeah.
And then the first question is, you guys are obviously very close, best friends, right? When did you guys meet? Did you guys meet, grade school, outside of school, and you guys went to school together? Like, how did that happen?
We met initially in 9th grade.
Yeah.
And I think we had a few classes together. So
Okay.
9th grade high school was the first time we met.
Okay.
Yeah. I actually remember just we were in English class.
Yep.
And we were like the only 2 black kids in our honors English class,
Okay.
man. So naturally, we just like started hanging out and talking basketball, and I think you might have had a
Kobe. I had a Kobe jersey
yeah.
on the first day of school that day.
Kobe Lakers jersey, man.
Yeah.
On I had the pink polo on,
Right.
but yeah, and then from that moment on, I think we stayed tight, man. Frank even moved to South Carolina, and we still stayed in touch. So that's some like our history, and reconnected later years down the road as well, just staying connected on Facebook and stuff when I went to school and he went into the Army. And so that was, something interesting, just to continue a relationship that even through different seasons, we're still like super tight,
So
Dope. Frank, so you went into the Army, 2012 to 2016. What's that like, and where did you find your, I guess, creative, talent from? Was it always there in high school, or?
Yeah, I feel like to answer the initial question, I guess going into the Army was kind of natural for me. I grew up playing basketball, but we both come from an Army town. Fayetteville, North Carolina is predominantly Army base. One of the biggest Army bases in the world, Fort Bragg.
Fort Bragg, yeah.
Which is now like Fort Liberty. They renamed it, which is crazy. So that was natural for me. But as far as the creative outlets, I feel like I was putting that stuff more into just like fashion and growing up where we grew up, man. We really didn't have access to a lot of like designer things or like all the shit that was hot when we was growing up, like Bape and all of those things. So you kind of had to be creative in the sense of like what you were gonna do to separate yourself in fashion. So I feel like most of my creative juices were going to that, and then just sports.
Right.
So yeah.
And Brandon, you took a different path. You went to college, right? And then eventually landed at Google in their San Francisco office. And it caused you to sort of move around the world, London being one of them, New York, now Los Angeles. Did you always know you wanted a corporate career while trying to build like a creative, your creative ventures? Like why that path and not just, because obviously you're very talented musically and just creative.
Yeah, nah. So it was totally. If you would have asked my 13-year-old, so whenever we met, like, what'd you want to do? Like, even Frank knows this. Like, when I was 13 years old in high school and stuff, I wanted to become a doctor.
Oh wow.
So in our hometown, there, like Frank said, there's not a lot of creative outlets. There's also not a lot of corporate companies based in our small hometown, right? So you see role models that are in the military, and then they have professional jobs, either doctors or lawyers, right? So if you're good in math and science, you go into the medical route. And if you're good in English and history, you most likely probably go into law or something like that, right? And so when I started school and college, I was no different. I wanted to be a doctor. I had a cousin that was a doctor as well, and he was like one of the most successful people that I knew growing up. And so, fast forward, I had a mentor that he had an internship at Google, kind of got me in the door and exposed me to some things, and that kind of changed my whole trajectory after that.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, bringing it back to Frank. So you get out of the Army, and in the Army, is your creative outlet, is it dormant? Are people coming to you while you're in the Army for fashion or your time off or anything like that? Or when does that really pick up, the fashion, the music?
So when I first get in there, there's no way that you could even like show that. You know what I'm saying? Because you go to basic training and we all just wearing bald heads and you wearing your PTs. So it's like, the only thing from that point that could separate you is really your character and like your drive and your passion and how you treat others and stuff like that. Those things like that start to take the forefront more so than like what's on the outer appearance. If that makes sense. But after I went to Afghanistan, I feel like is when I got more into a creative outlet. When I picked up a camera and started doing like photography stuff, which helped me just, I guess, showcase my fashion on a broader scale.
Okay. And I'm gonna go ahead and take a little bit of a claim because I know that while I was researching you said you went to New York and you saw that you met up with other creatives and you saw that people were making money off their art. Was that like an aha moment for you, like saying like, I don't have to take a military route. I can actually go all in on this.
Yeah, because I really didn't know it. It's crazy because in retrospect, I knew a bunch of artists growing up. Right. People that was in church playing the drums, people that was playing the keyboards, people that was singing. This is how they was making their living most of the time. Right. So but I just had no idea that could be in the forefront of what you want to do in your life. So for me, yeah, when I went to New York, man, I got to meet other creatives that were young, black, you know, and just into different things. And they weren't really in a rush to like figure it all out at one time. They were kind of just letting their passion lead them, which was kind of cool.
Yeah. So then how do you tie it together now? So you dabble in the photography. How does the music come about? And then how does this bond form as far as?
Well, I mean, the bond with me and B never dropped from the time we were 13. It only got stronger. So,
Okay.
I mean, now it's been well over 15 years.
Oh, that's your brother right there.
So,
man.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So our bond always been there no matter really what career path we were on.
Right.
As far as the music thing, I was doing creative direction for Mixed by Ali, who's like the in-house engineer at TDE.
Okay.
So I sat in a lot of sections. I sat in a lot of sessions when he was mixing like the Damn album, when he was mixing Victory Lap, when he was mixing SZA's album, when he was mixing Schoolboy Q's album.
Wow.
So I was able to just soak all of that up and see how it was to get their creative juices flowing in that realm. And I've always been a music lover, man, just because just growing up around it, my mom was into music. I was in church every Sunday, so that's like the core of those things for me. And naturally, I just wanted to try music on my own, and that's how it happened.
So Brandon, you get the call from Frank. He's like, "Yo, let's do an art show back home." Right. And at first you weren't feeling it, or you maybe were a little apprehensive. Why not? And Frank, why was it important for you to do it in Fayetteville, not where you were living at the time, which is, I'm assuming, LA at the time when you did Frequency?
So yeah, the time he called me, I was still in school. I think you might have still been in Texas at the time.
Okay.
And
Still in the Army.
yeah, and so it was just. I don't think I was super apprehensive. It just never had been done before in our hometown, right? So I had in college, I was in student government and did just a whole bunch of things and was super involved in event planning or doing programs and stuff was like pretty like easy or like common. And so when he hit me up, I'm like, I really never mixed the two, like to do something like I was doing in college and then bring it back to our hometown, because we didn't grow up going to any art shows. We didn't grow up going to, concerts or short film screenings or anything like that. So it was just like kind of hard to conceptualize.
Right.
But because he was so adamant about it, I was like, yeah, let's do it. Frank, he knew a store owner there and was like, yo, we can do it at this spot. I know the owner. We don't have to pay anything. And I'm going to just get like these canvases printed off and let's do it. And so, yeah, he was in Texas at the time.
Yeah. And to piggyback off that, I was just seeing people do things, and I was like, I could do that shit.
Yeah.
Basically, that was my whole, like, even
Yeah.
to this day, like, usually when I see people do something, I'm like, I could do that. You know what I'm saying? And I'm always down to prove myself right. So I just hit Brandon and did that. And I feel like he was always down to, like, more on the path to pay homage to our hometown. If it was up to me, I probably would have did it somewhere else.
Right.
But, you know, every time we would talk, man, he was always like, man, we got to put the love back into the city where we grew up. And of course, you know, I respect that. So that's just why we decided to go with Fayetteville and just do it where we grew up. And like you said, it hadn't been done before. So it was just kind of like a easy thing to get into, because there was really no way to fail.
It
in my
must have
eyes.
felt like a full circle moment, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
right, so
it's like a homecoming, pretty
Right.
much.
So what's the initial, I guess, feedback when you go back home? Because Fayetteville's not really known for artists coming out and blowing. So is your close ones like, oh, you got this? Or they're like, yo, what are you doing?
I think it was a little bit of both. I don't even know if people really knew what they were coming to,
Okay.
but we were always like cool as fuck in school and shit.
Right.
So it was like, you know what I'm saying? I don't think nobody really quit. They was like, at the minimum, we just pull up and hang out with them. And just vibe out.
And that was the first time you had been back home in a while.
Yeah,
you know?
a minute.
Like being in Texas, I feel like that was like a sort of homecoming moment that we just were able to, like, just like Frank said, there's just a lot of people that just wanted to come like see us. You know what I'm saying? It was right around the holidays. People was all like, everyone was back from college, or if they were like wherever they were in the world, visiting family. So it was just a good moment for everybody to kind of pull up and just be there in one space.
Yeah.
And I think, Brandon, for you, like just from your end as the creative strategist and being that Frank's your best friend, right? What went into organizing that event, right, to ensure it was a success? I'm sure Frank had a lot of input as well, but just from your end, because even though you may not be an artist in the traditional sense, I mean, I view you as a creative, as an artist. You know, you have to be, in order to be aligned with someone like Frank, who's obviously more on the traditional side of being an artist, right? What people would traditionally think of an artist. So what went into that? Just having that corporate background and being able to be, use your creative juices.
Yeah, at that time, I think it was just a lot of run and gun, like whatever we needed in the moment. I remember being at your, I think, cousin's house, and we were just like putting stuff together so we can make sure the canvases like were right. Like
we printed them out at FedEx, bro.
Yeah,
like
just real scrappy,
like that. Like I was like, man, let's just go print this shit at FedEx. We're gonna hang it up with some fishing line.
Yeah, we was doing just like all kinds of stuff. The first few shows we did, like we would go to Michael's. Remember that in Atlanta that time? We was like building a cloud. We built a cloud like just for the aesthetic. We were just doing a lot of stuff that we would see, like Frank said, we would see on the internet and be like, we could do that and make it even look better than what, just because of our taste level. And yeah, just to your point, I think a lot of those like runs that we were doing really allowed me to like craft just my own, like the balance between business and art, right? Mm-hmm. And so I don't know if I knew in that moment. I was probably like 20 or 21 when we first did that show, but those were like a lot of the building blocks that now in my even corporate role, outside of my corporate role, that I kind of just dig into sometimes to make sure that, all right, this is what I'm good at. This is what I know. These are the connections I have. So this kind of just all built upon each other.
That's dope. So Frank, you had a quote where you said, the seeds that you plant, so what is the seeds that you plant today won't grow tomorrow because it takes time.
Right.
What does that mean to you? And as far as like, what phase are you in your career? Are you still waiting for some of those seeds to grow, or does the work that you did in fashion and art, is that coming into fruition?
Yeah. For me, I feel like it's a bit sporadic, right? So there's a lot of things that I did 10 years ago that now I reap the benefits from.
Okay.
But there's also a lot of things that I might have did 3 years ago that I'm still waiting on. So it's like a continuous effort for me. Like I'm always laying seeds and I'm always harvesting, I guess, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
Dope, man. So after your successful exhibition in 2018, I think in 2019 you transitioned into music. Did you always want to write songs, produce videos, drop albums, or was it just like the next progressive transition from photography and short filmmaking?
I feel like I always wanted to do it, but I didn't really know it, if that makes sense. Okay. So I don't think it became more of like a realistic thing to me until I was around it so much, 2017, 2018, when I was able to witness those sessions, able to see those artists say the words and put them on the track, watch those tracks become the biggest songs in the world and win Grammys, and just look at the overall like impact of music. So 2017, 2018, that's when that happened. What was the second part of that question?
No, just what, or was it natural? Was it a natural trend?
Okay, yeah. I was naturally into music, but yeah, the progression of it felt natural, but it was a lot of things that went into it, if that makes sense.
And I think outside looking at, one of the biggest things that I realized at that time was I think Frank was going through a transition of kind of being behind the scenes and more of a service to artists or to stars, right? Being like, a photographer and just capturing different moments for these big like stars, like some of the biggest stars now, if you fast forward some years, right? But I think he started to realize that he always knew like that he possessed those qualities too, and somehow had to transition and take a step back in one lane to take a step forward in another and become like that front person, right. You know what I'm saying? So that was interesting to see, and definitely something. When he told me, it's similar to the first art show, when he told me he wanted to do music, I'm like, are you sure? Like, he was like, already got all the equipment. He got like all this equipment for his house. Got connected with some really good guys that we're like really great friends with even to this day. And he still makes me all his music with, right? Wow. So it's just been that way for the last, 6 years, 7 years now?
Yeah.
And this is around the time I was living in New York. So he was just sending me all the tracks, and I'm like riding the train, like listening to my notes file of just all his like first tracks and stuff. And yeah, it's crazy to kind of think like how far like it's like come.
I guess for you, Brandon, like was being connected to a photographer / filmmaker much different in terms of what input you would give versus a musical artist, or are there a lot of overlap? Like how was that just looking from your side?
I think from a visual art perspective, I think Frank definitely had like more just like experience and just expertise in the space. So I think the things that he was able to show me of like even like to the point of us creating content for each other or whatever it is, right? A lot of the advice and stuff that he would give me, I wouldn't necessarily have any just perspective on as much personally. So he was teaching me a lot. But I think music became an interesting space because I grew up playing drums through middle school and high school and had that. And my dad also did too. So, and then like you mentioned, like a lot of the people we grew up with just were musical in the church and things like that. So, and also was a big fan just in general. So I think I had more of a perspective there. So I think I was able to kind of just contribute a little bit more to that conversation even earlier on. And then that has also grown as we've like all together kind of learned the industry, just different, tips and hacks to the music space in general. So I think I'm able to contribute way more than back then, but I do think I was able to contribute more than visual art space for sure.
And I guess this could be for the both of y'all. Musically, what are the goals? And then is it to get signed to majors? Is it to stay independent? Where are you trying to take it musically? And then as far as, dropping just singles versus albums.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely want to impact as many people as I can through music. And whether that means being the biggest artist ever or being the biggest artist where I'm from, or I really don't know what that means or what that looks like yet. But I want to try to use every ounce of potential that I have. You know what I'm saying? So I would like to be mentioned with the greats. And that's just in anything I do. And I'm still carving that path out and figuring out things that could elevate me to that level. As far as releasing singles or albums, I feel like they're both important. Singles usually grab the attention of the listener, and that album is usually what makes people fans.
Yeah.
When they can actually like dive into your world and you can sit with that music over and over. I like making albums better.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It just comes more natural for me. It's usually hard for me to pick like one song. I usually lean on Brandon for that. Like what song you think we should drop, or even if I don't end up going with that song, it's still in my head. Like, all right, this is the type of song that we need to put out, or things like this. So I'm always just paying attention to the market and seeing what other people are doing. But I would very much like the industry to get back to like focusing on good projects.
Yeah, 100%.
That's what we've been hearing consistently all day today.
Yeah, that's how I grew up. Yeah. All the things I love are usually they rely in projects. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's the side I'm on with it.
Yeah, and I just to chime in there too, I feel like music is for us at least, it's obviously I know Frank has like great ambition and goals to become like the biggest artist and do some amazing things in music specifically. I think to zoom out even more, I think music for us too is will allow for a larger platform so that we can do a lot of the things that we like to do, and then do it and bring it to even more people. So clothes and fashion, just lifestyle things, right? I think I had watched this interview like not too long ago that before the internet, people in politics and religion were like some of the biggest figures, like the Martin Luther Kings and people like that. as we've transitioned and have like more access to entertainment in general, you see the Rihannas, Kanye West, like those folks are able to build such a large platform from, music, starting in music, that they're able to transcend and do like all the things that they probably ever wanted to do, right? And I think that's the same type of mentality we have too, where music, I think, because everyone, you ask your mom, you ask your grandma who their favorite music artist is, they'll have an answer. Right. But if you ask someone like, who's your favorite photographer or who's your favorite, film director, they might not have an answer. Like, it's just like a little less,
Yeah, and they usually still might be a musician.
Yeah.
So nowadays.
Yeah, in that situation, I think that's, as we've grown up, it used to be like, because we were so touched by music, it was like one of those things where it's like, all right, music is the number one thing. But I think as we've grown up and seen, like, we want to, be able to invest in the next big startup, you know what I'm saying? Right. And because of funds or because of the platform or influence that he might have from being this big entertainer, right? So I think there's a lot, that's like the next level where we're thinking. But I think once we get to that, it'll just be even more fun too.
Yeah. Going off the comment that Frank said about the singles versus the albums, I definitely remember a true story. It was in London. In your earlier ones like Solutions and Chances and Never Change, I remember sitting with my girl, and I think because you dropped The Process of Loving an Artist in 2019, was it?
2019.
2019, right? And I remember it was a Friday night or Saturday night. Me and my girl was staying in. It was pouring rain. Yeah. And we had it playing in the background. I didn't notice. I was just listening to it. And the first thing she says, like, who is that guy? Yeah. You definitely got that vibe of like, Friday night, want to stay in with your girl and then do some nasty things right afterwards. I don't know if that's the vibe you're going for, but you definitely helped me out that night for sure, man.
Yeah, that's kind of, it's funny, man. That's kind of that's how I spend majority of my time, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like when I really think about my, at least frivolous time, when I'm just hanging out, it's usually with women. So yeah, I think that's just natural for me to want to make that music. And I also love being able to make things that people can live to. Yeah. It is impactful, people that make music that can take over a space and things like that. But I do like to be able to make music that you can put on while you have a conversation or do other things or work out, sleep, whatever you might be doing, man. So that's a huge compliment. I appreciate that.
That's really cool, for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting because I got introduced a different way. Like when you posted his riding video, I was like, this is hard.
I appreciate that.
And then when I digged in more to you, I was like, he got the tracks for the ladies as well. So it's versatile with it.
Yeah, so that's just how we grew up for real. Like, you know what I'm saying? Riding is more like a natural sound to me in Fayetteville. Like, a lot of people always like, y'all from North Carolina, is that the South? Is that? I'm like, bro, it's super Southern. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, we grew up listening to Project Pat and all the Atlanta music and 3-6 Mafia and just everything Southern, you know what I'm saying? All the music that was coming out of Florida. So I appreciate that too. Like that means a lot to me just as much as the other compliment, because those are my makeup of like who I am as an artist for real.
Right. So speaking about your first album, The Process of Loving an Artist, was creating that album a lot harder than you thought? Was it easier? Did it come more naturally to you? And Brandon, what was that process like, being someone who was so close to the process of the music, of the production, and actually finalizing it?
That was easy. I'll give you the reason, I guess. I'm thinking like, what's the reason why it's easy? I don't even know. But I guess that's like, they say like the first project you make, usually it take your whole life to make it. You know what I'm saying? So I had all of this like built up experience and things I wanted to try that I was just easy to put that on wax. And then it was just fun, man. I really fuck with the producers I was doing it with, and they were helping me a lot, and I was really learning who I was, and it was very experimental as far as music goes. So I enjoyed it. It was very easy.
Nice.
Yeah, and I think I'm torn on like the answer to this, because I think, to Frank's point, that it was easy because it was our first time and there was no like real huge expectation, but it was also hard because we're doing all this stuff for the first time, you know what I'm saying? And like trying to navigate like, label conversations, distribution, like just all these things that we had really like we never done before, right? Because we had only done like visual arts showcases and galleries and things like that. So when it came to planning the release of the project, that was pretty easy. Or doing merch for the project, that was easy. But I feel like some of those other conversations and things that we had to navigate were a little bit more challenging. And I think if you fast forward the projects after, the other stuff became, the expectations and that kind of stuff became more intense. And that's where like the pressure was versus like, I think the music part has always been fun. It's always been cool to like sit in on sessions. Again, like the guys that we make the music with are like some of our just best friends. So it's just a good time. You know what I'm saying?
It's like, I guess, just to put the podcast in the filming, this is the fun part.
Yeah.
Everything that goes behind this, it's not
Yeah,
it's not so
exactly.
glamorous.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
that's why people quit, because they're like, nah, this is gonna take way too much time to do it right.
Mhm.
Everybody can pick up a mic and just release a
100%,
video, right?
yeah.
But to actually put a
And then
production
people want
together.
to see those numbers. How many numbers did your last episode do? How many? You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that is where artists start to get in their own head when they, or you might look at somebody that started the same time as y'all
Yeah.
that might have popped, that got a Spotify deal already, or you know what I'm saying, they already got a video with 2 million views or whatever.
Yeah.
Those are the type of things I feel like that start to like permeate in artists.
I find at least, I don't know if it's the same in the music industry, but at least for us, we like to put blinders on. We're not concerned
Yeah.
about what anybody
Yeah.
to the left or to the right does. We respect it. We don't bash anybody. We don't talk down on anybody. Obviously, we watch other podcasts, other shows. We take elements from that and more fit into what we want to do.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming it's the same in the music industry. You got to
Yeah,
have
you
some
have to.
tough skin, like you said in the beginning. It's a
Yeah.
tough industry, right?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing you gotta like accept is like everybody not gonna like your music.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that's just like a natural, like, there's people that don't like listening to Michael Jackson or Sade or Kanye or Drake or, you know what I'm saying?
You're right.
There's like people that literally don't like their music. So that's just one thing I feel like you got to accept. I guess the hard part is like when you get to the point where a lot of the people that make the calls and that do hold the key to give you certain opportunities, they do care about the numbers and things like that.
Yeah.
And that's where, you know what I'm saying, you got to really be able to have tough skin and be like, okay, well, do I need to make this type of music so I could do these type of numbers to get this type of opportunity? But you just got to, think about your path and,
You got
the
to break
vibe
through. You got to
want,
stay consistent.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing is Frank had this, we were talking one day, I think, in the gym, and he was saying the more time that you let sit between whatever your craft is, like dropping a song, dropping an episode, or whatever it is, the more particular and the more just like the perfectionism tries to creep into you doing whatever you're doing, right? And he had this funny example of like, if you shoot a video and you don't drop it, you shoot it in the wintertime, right? And then you're like, July comes and you're like, man, I'm wearing a winter coat. I can't drop this now. Because like, it's just little things like that will start to eat away at you if you don't like stay on, like just continuously. Obviously, you want to do like things that are good and that you like. But at a certain point, you kind of just have to let it go and let the universe just see your art.
Yeah.
Yep.
What was that moment where, despite all the numbers and everything like that, it's like, you're an artist. You like creating art. What was that point, a certain song where a fan came up to you or you heard it on the radio and you was like, nah, we got one. Like, I'm here. You know what I mean?
I feel like I'm still waiting on that moment. I have people tell me that they like my music all the time and I get different messages, and I would be like, I don't know, I'll be lying right now if I said I could remember the exact message, but anytime I get a message, man, and I can really tell that somebody really listened to it and that it really meant a lot to them, and the fact that you could, name the songs that you were listening to at the specific time you did, like, that means just as much to me as hearing my song on the radio or something. So I feel like that moment was just like, after the first project, man, we had a album release party, and that it was just really heartwarming for people to even come support that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I guess just switching it over to you, Brandon, because we do have a lot of people, at least on my corner, who have corporate careers just like you and I do, right? And they're always trying to balance like something else on the side, but they give up or whatever. Is it for you? Has it been hard for you to balance, working at a place like Google and doing all your other creative brands? And I'm sure sometimes, Frank may need your attention for something, but you got Google, right? They're writing your check. So how do you sort of like how do you like resolve those conflicts, and how do you kind of keep the juices going for your other creative ventures or whatever ideas you have?
Yeah, I think prioritization is like the number one thing that I try to do. Whether that's being intentional about waking up and working out and, carving that time out of your day early on so that you can, get to that 9 a.m. meeting and not have to worry about like, trying to do both things at one time, whether that's knowing like beforehand or in advance that, Frank has an event or we have a appearance or something that we have to go to, right? And planning that out and knowing that like, all right, cool, like Thursday night we're gonna be out, so then I need to make sure that everything that I get done or needs to get done prior to that, and then Friday probably make it a more chill day with meetings and things like that because of everything else going on. Right. I would lie and I would be lying if I said that it was always easy, like especially earlier on. But I feel like as I gotten more senior in my career, and because I've been at the same company and majority of the time same team structure at least, it's become a little bit more flexible just because I'm able to just show up and do my core role like to the best of my ability and do it well, and then know when I can take time away or do different things like that. I feel like a good example is that when we went on tour last year, we would have a show at I don't know, a Tuesday night, and then the next morning I would go into the office in whatever city we were in. And so just balancing that has been something I think personally I like the challenge of it. And then for right now, while things are where they are, it provides me a good balance because sometimes like the music stuff can be just, so intense or stressful that sometimes the corporate meetings, like having a chill like boring meeting might be helpful. You know what I'm saying, just to kind of clear your mind. And I'm also too, I feel like because we talk about this a lot, we don't have a lot of hobbies that don't involve like either making money or like pushing a career.
That's true.
So sometimes you kind of need that time away to recharge and kind of think, because you can burn yourself out trying to just constantly think about like how we're gonna make these millions and billions of dollars every single second of your whole day.
You also have a passion for it, so that keeps it going, right? So without that and prioritization, you're gonna burn out quick.
100%,
for sure.
Yeah.
When you talk about the creative process or just even performing, what's the best part of it? Is it going on tour? Is it sitting down with a pen and paper, being in the lab?
Man, that's very. I don't even know if anyone's ever asked me that. It's a hard question. My passion is people. You know what I'm saying? I can't say that. So I do like going out and touching the people and talking to people and seeing how people react to certain songs and seeing how it makes them feel. And it's one of the most real-time experiences you can experience, just because like you can really look into people's face and see how they feel.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Or, if they want to talk during the song versus if they don't, if you got their full attention, like those are the type of things I pay attention to. But the times in the lab when I am writing music and spending time with the fellas, whether it's a lot of people in there or if it's just me and my engineer, like I enjoy those times too, man, because it's like really like therapy for me, and I'm able to take like my stories and my experiences as well as like anything anyone's ever told me and like put it in music. So I really enjoy it all as one like thing. I don't even know how to explain. It's a crazy thing to explain, but sitting down and just making a song when you had no clue what you were gonna say 10 minutes before you started is like a crazy experience. To go from that to somebody else knowing the words to said song is like some crazy spiritual type.
And I'm sure the reaction too, where you probably look at somebody, you're like, oh, they too cool, and then they hype.
Yeah, exactly. And what's crazy is people have different reactions. Like people aren't always gonna react how you want them to.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that certain songs you play for people in the studio, like that might not be the time for them to react how you want them to.
Right.
It might be when they driving their car at night,
Right.
or when a girl asks about it. Some people don't even know what they like, you know, until the chicks be like, "I like that." They be like,
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So
I'll rock with this too. She bad enough, you're gonna like the song.
Exactly, bro. So I've learned how to like being in the studio with Kendrick, and I was real tight with Thug before he got locked up, and seeing how people react to music in the studio versus their own time is totally different things. You know what I'm saying? So.
What's the vibe you like in the studio when you're recording something? Like, you know, because I've heard like different artists, like, you know, I like listening to Future, and Metro was explaining to his, like, he likes pitch darkness with the shades on. What's your vibe in the studio?
I'm cool with like anything, really, man. I like different vibes. Sometimes I like being at the crib, dark vibe with some mood lights, but I also like being in the studio. Sometimes it could look like this in there, and we could just be vibing like middle of the day. So it really just, I like good energy in the studio. Like I don't know, man. It's just like, it's just a protected space. You know what I'm saying? As long as it's people I love and people I rock with, or, you know, if I invited y'all bring somebody that y'all rock with, long as y'all can hold them accountable for how they act and their energy, like I'm cool with just like whatever the vibe might be. I like girls in there sometimes. I like, it could be one girl, it could be 10, it could be one homie, it could be 10 homies. So it's just like, I don't know, man. We love that. Like I just remember one of my favorite studio sessions was in Toronto. We had a show there and we stayed there for an extra day. And the next day, man, we had a studio session at nighttime. I can't remember what area we was in, probably a little outside of like downtown. Yeah. And it was just a nice night, man. It was just like me, B, my engineers, couple chicks. And it was just like a perfect, we was able to have like normal conversation and just be vibing. But then we're also at the same time just recording and stuff. Like you don't have to tell people like, shh, y'all gotta be quiet. It's just kind of, I just learned that kind of from Young Thug, man. Like he used to record while people were in the room having whole conversations.
For real?
Yeah, bro. He's
he's special. He's definitely
by the way,
special.
I even took B to a couple of the sessions.
Yeah.
Like,
Wow.
And I just learned that. Like you don't always have to be like you don't gotta be the big star in a room when people know you a star.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I really admire that about him, that he never took himself too serious. Like he handled his business, did his job, and if people want to have fun in there, that's on him.
Yeah.
It's not on, you know what I'm saying? It's not on them to like be quiet and tiptoe around. And
I feel like ego sometimes is like a perfume for insecurity, man. Like me personally, right? Yeah. Because if you know you got it, you know you cold with it, you don't need to talk too much. You don't need to command that attention. People are just going to give it to you naturally, right? So, and by the way, one comment. Next time we come to LA, we're going to a studio session. He invited us, Mike.
Yeah,
so we there. We're doing that.
Yeah.
And then fun fact for that Toronto night, that was actually the night LeBron broke the scoring record. So we were
wow.
Remember that?
Yeah, that was a good
We were
vibe.
watching the game. We was like
that.
cutting a record. Like,
Every shot he shot, we like, oh.
Yeah. It was just a good time. We got Jamaican food from around the corner.
Toronto Jamaican food is
And if you heard the song, you wouldn't think nothing. You wouldn't think that was the vibe in there. You probably think I was in there like crying. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how it sounds. But it's just cool to be able to cultivate moments like that, and you know, just have those experiences attached to those pieces of art.
And Brandon, did you ever find yourself, you know, being his best friend? How honest are you with him with your feedback? Did you ever go like, "Damn, that's trash," or like, do you ever say that?
Yeah, I don't say it that way, but I definitely, because I don't feel like he makes anything that's just like his taste level. You're not gonna make anything that's
you're
terrible.
not.
But I definitely will chime in and be like, I'm not really feeling that, or have him explain like why you think that, like why he thinks that's the right way to go. We get into so many debates. Like one night we were at one of our friends and producers' houses, and for some reason his mom was there, and she came and was yelling. We were so loud that she came up and was yelling at us like we were like 15 years old.
Like we was kids. We was like, all right, it's time for us.
All right, it's time for us
She
to
not
go.
gonna do it. Like, bro, y'all gotta be quiet.
We was debating about just like the Grammys and all this stuff, but yeah, so there'll be times that I'll definitely weigh in too. But again, like I operate off the just the feeling that if he feels super strongly about something, him being the artist, it's like he has to like stand and put that out, and it's gonna be his face attached to it. So at the end of the day, I feel like I can only say what my thoughts are, but if it's something that he wants to put out, it's like ultimately his like name attached to it.
He has
right?
ultimate creative.
Yeah.
Ultimate creative decision.
Because you
right?
never know. I feel like I've heard so many stories of people that have like Mitch, Yachty's friend.
Yeah,
he
what he
hated One Night.
Yeah.
And he was like, the first song that Yachty blew up off of is One Night, and his best friend and one of his producers hated the song. It was like, no, don't put it out. Changed his career, you know what I'm saying? So I've heard a lot of stories about stuff like that, and I just never want to be that person just because of my perspective. Now, if I was like Quincy Jones and I've had like 1 million records under my belt, like maybe I would like push a little more. But I feel like with us being in the process of just learning and trying new things, like it's just part of it all, you know?
Yeah.
It's interesting. I feel like in the music space, if you put out singles, you could put out one that doesn't hit. It's more so if you put out a project that's really bad, that might be more damaging.
It's really all just like, I don't know, man. And none of it really matters, bro.
Right.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Because who's it bad to?
true.
You know what I'm
That's
saying?
true.
Like, there's probably albums that y'all don't like that I might love and vice versa. So it's like,
I have this debate all the time with my girl. My girl, there's certain albums I listen to, I love. She's like, I hate that.
yeah,
That's
you
trash.
can't-
What are you talking
can't,
about?
Like, you can't hang your hat on it.
Yeah.
So it's like, whether somebody thinks that album is good or not, you got to focus on making another one.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it isn't, I feel what you're saying. Like, I think it's important too. Like, I would like to think all my albums are good, but just because somebody else might not like them, it's not really going to like stop me from making the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think attaching yourself to like really standing on your craft and your art is what is the most important. Like if at the end of the day you like it and you putting it out, then I don't feel like you should have any regrets to that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like no one else is like putting their name on it, or no one else is it's your art at the end of the day.
And then one more. What's I guess the percentages of, you mentioned earlier where you try to listeners see like, you know, where music is in general, and not so much of it's a trend, but you'll try to produce that. Like, what's the percentage that you'll do that, or you're like, this is my own wave, I'm gonna create this sound, whether people like it or not?
I try to keep things within my soundscape. Because I feel like naturally, man, I've made music that I feel like might have been more trendy at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if I've released it yet, but I have went to the studio and been like, all right, we need to make like this type of BPM, this type of soundscape and whatever. But it always ends up going back to my identity and how I feel, which is something I'm thankful for. Like, I don't know. I don't have to really try to make music that sounds like my music anymore. It just kind of happens no matter what ingredient we're putting in there.
Right.
So I don't know what percent that would be, but we're always listening to new stuff, and I'm very inspired by music I hear, things I see, people I'm around, clothes I wear, and anything that's in my life, bro. That shit comes out in some form of my art.
Okay.
What's up, man? And I guess, you know, going from I know this is a tough question. Which album are you guess, you know, every championship's the same, right? They say, but which one are you most proud of? Like, which one are you were like that? If you had to choose one.
I mean, that first one it holds a really special place in my heart, but Electric Heaven for me is a really special album for me, I think, because I was able to be super vulnerable on those songs.
Mm-hmm.
Intentionally. You know what I'm saying? I think I took from what I learned in my first one and went into that one. And then when we did that one, it was like the pandemic and stuff. So it was like a different type of focus. Like, it just felt like those times we was doing like those art shows and stuff again and trying to be creative. And we had everything that I was really good at, we kind of had it snatched from us. Like, I'm just really good at doing things in person, and he's good at activating things in person. Right. So this was like our superpower, you know what I'm saying? Right. Our events, going out, touching the people, and we weren't able to do things like that. So we had to come up with other ways to be able to touch people, which is like the type of rollout we had to do for Electric Heaven, which was like Never Change and Chances and Rumors and all those, like, those are like 3 of my top 5 streaming tracks. So that time was cool. Like, I'm proud of every project, but Electric Heaven was a time where I just felt like we were having fun again and just trying to like we were being scrappy. You know what I'm saying?
I was gonna say even creatively, like this was when people, were scared to like go outside and do certain things, right?
Yeah.
So just getting to shoot videos or to, do certain things, right? It became a little bit more difficult to do
my
that.
videographer was scared to pull up and like edit with me at the crib. Like that's how crazy it was around that time. Like looking back, that's how insane it was. You know what I'm saying?
Damn. And do you feel? I guess like I'm obviously not in the music industry. How do you stop yourself from? And I don't want to say it like in a bad way, like sounding commercial, right? Like you have a very unique sound, which I truly enjoy. Like, and you've kept consistent from pretty much consistent from the first to now recently. How do you stop yourself from going down that commercial route? Because obviously, people sell out.
What's the commercial sound to you?
I don't know, man. Things that obviously you want to get played on the radio, but I feel like sometimes songs just. One person's song just sounds the same over and over and over again because it's going to capture the most TikTok. Something like that. Yeah, exactly. That's what I
don't know. I just don't really like the. I trust what I like. You know what I'm saying? I really don't. I don't have a crazy answer for you right now to be like X plus B.
No, yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
I
but
feel you.
I just trust my taste level, and the things that I listen to over and over are usually the things that I want to release.
Yeah, right.
And that's how it is for. Like, I feel like even B, like, sometimes he might not like a song when he first hear it. But they just got to let him sit with it for like 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He might come back around and be like, you know what? That track actually fired, bro. So I feel like it's things like that. Just trusting how we feel about the things that we make. And not being scared to share it. I'll share stuff with the people that I'm closest to, and they'll be like, I don't really like that one, or... You know what I'm saying? Or if they just never say anything about it at all, you just know that's not one of them.
I got a funny story for you. Think about, so your track Tuesdays, right?
Yeah.
My brother, so I was riding with my brother one time, and admittedly, he's like, I don't really mess with the track. I don't really like the track. And then one day, like 3 weeks later, we were in his Jeep Wrangler down in North Carolina because he lives in Charlotte, and he goes, you in a Jeep? Like he was actually like, he was like, yo, that song grew on me. He's like, I'm not gonna lie.
Sometimes too,
sometimes you gotta sit with it.
Yeah,
and you need that backdrop sometimes.
And sometimes you gotta actually live some of that stuff.
I think I joked with him and said, watch out, she might come take your girl with the gun.
Right. But that's just like music, man. And I'm a victim of that too. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes Drake might drop some shit and I'll be like, oh, it's whatever. Like, it's cool. Mm-hmm. And then, bro, I have, 7 favorite songs off of that project, the same project in 2 weeks. So it's hard to really ask people how they feel in a moment about a piece of art and get their honest reaction. Because even if they're being honest, it might change in 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's like, again, you just got to have very thick skin because somebody might have had a bad day. You know what I'm saying? You asking them what they think about some shit you just made, and they like, it's cool. Yeah. And really, they
not even thinking about.
Yeah, they not even really thinking about this shit. They don't give a fuck about your music, bro. Like they got real life shit going on. So I just don't even take things people say too heavily. Like everybody got so many things going on, and then you do the other things on the reverse. Like somebody might have just got their $20,000 check today. Anything you play in that studio,
great.
They got some Casamigos. They like, man, this the one, bro. You like, man, we ain't even finished making this shit. Like, so it's you just got to be able to like weather the storm, whether it's good or bad, and not get too high, not get too low.
Yeah, always gotta stay consistent. And Brandon, for you, like, do you? And fear is the wrong word, but it's the only word I can think of right now. Do you ever think there'll be a time where you're like, damn, I can't balance what I maybe got my creative ventures with your corporate career? Because I think that's the major comment I get from people who have a corporate career and they're pursuing something on the side. Like, damn, I'm gonna have to choose one, but one's has a really nice floor, but the one who made the one thing I'm doing that maybe not as lucrative is the thing I actually have a passion for, but it has a much higher ceiling. But shooting for the ceiling could be a risky play.
Mm-hmm. Nah, so if when that moment happens, I think that's when I like won. I really feel strongly about when the time is right, everything will align, and the paths and everything that I've taken and all the experience I've had before will come together. I mean, that's what's gotten us here today. You know what I'm saying? So I just feel super strongly about that. And yeah, when the time does come, I think I'll just I'll bow out gracefully. You know what I'm saying? And the thing that will take me away, I think, from corporate will probably be, I'm almost certain, so great that it probably won't even feel like I'm losing anything, just gaining more.
I think we got time for one more.
One more.
Okay. Yeah. So, just as far as what can we expect next from you, and also, is there any collaborations that you have out there that you're thinking about, like this would be dope, and this would take my music to the next level, or this is a look that people won't expect from me?
Yeah, I would love to make music with somebody like Drake. Don Tolliver would be cool. Naomi Sharon, I just went and caught her concert, and I really like her music. I could sit here and name artists all day. As far as like what to expect, I got a project coming out called Fallen Angels, which will be out. I don't know the exact date, but it'll be out in the next 3 months or so.
Okay.
And if y'all like
it's done right now.
yeah, it's finished. If y'all like the other stuff I did, y'all love this project, man. It's like a mix of
What's the name of your tour, right?
everything.
Last year?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was.
So it's all leading up to it. It's personally my favorite project. If I were to answer the question you asked earlier, I'm excited for it.
What does that? What does that title mean? Or what does it mean to you?
That title is a play off of. I got a fallen angel tatted on my face. It's a Karis, and I've just always really been into like statues and Greek things and the Roman times, and favorite movie is 300 and things like that. But Fallen Angels in my music career is, there's a song called Fallen Angels on TPLA, and it's about 3 girls I dated, and it's kind of the story of that. But Fallen Angels now for the project is just like all of the girls I've ever dated and experienced, and kind of wrapping that up and putting those feelings into that and letting it go. And, you know, the girls that I might have dealt with or broke my heart or whatever it might be, like those are the fallen angels for me. You know what I'm saying? That's what the project is. Wow.
I might need that, man.
It's a great one. So
You definitely need that. What you talking about? My man's out there suffering in Dubai right now.
It's coming. It's gonna be great for Dubai, bro. Yeah.
So look, guys, we are the Last Flight Out podcast, and basically we try to highlight, you know, pivotal moments, you know, where someone pivoted, took a risk, and sort of took a proverbial last flight out towards that next destination.
Yeah.
What would you say each of your last flights out were, where if you didn't take that sort of punch that ticket to get on that train ride or, you know, mode of transportation, you wouldn't be here sitting in front of us today?
Yeah, I can go real quick. Even me living out here in LA, it was something that in the pandemic, I was living in New York, and, you know, things started getting weird. I went back to North Carolina for a couple weeks. And I just, you know, when everybody was trying to save a couple dollars and stay with their parents and stuff, and I stayed there maybe for like 10 days at the most, and was like, yo, I cannot live here. And this is not in Charlotte. This is not like in Raleigh. This is in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And I was like, nah.
Going from New York to that?
Yeah. So I hit him up, and he was just like, at the same time, it was just like how I was saying, everything aligning. He was like, the person that he had a roommate at the time. He was like, he's moving out, and I'm about to keep the crib to myself. Got an extra room. There's no furniture in there. You can stay. And man, I stayed in that room for at least 2 or 3 months with just an air mattress and a blanket, and took my meetings in a computer chair. Like, would sit the laptop on the air mattress and take it from a computer chair. It looked like I was sitting at a desk for like 3 months just because I was still paying my lease in New York. They wouldn't let me break my lease in New York. And when I got the moment to, once that lease was up, I moved straight to LA, like officially. And and never looked back. So I think that was one of the moments that if I would have hesitated, or even now I work fully remote technically with Google, and if I would have hesitated or tried to do something like a hybrid situation or something, I would be stuck to that now. But because I was grandfathered in from working remote in LA, because I had a cool manager at the time, I've been able to stay that way. So nice. Yeah, that's definitely my example, my last flight out.
All right, my last flight out, man, I feel like it's something I'm practicing in my everyday life, which is I'm just running toward that feeling of like uncertainty and the feeling of being anxious, the feeling of being scared. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I've noticed that every time I do something in my life, like getting to that feeling and then getting past it is the most rewarding thing you could probably do.
It is, man.
And as a result of that, it'll help your life. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just doing things that make me excited. I'm doing things that make the people around me excited. I'm doing things that make me a little scared, that make me a little nervous. If I could point to one moment, I feel like it's definitely just when I got out the Army, man, choosing to do this thing full time and be a full-time creative and really have jurisdiction over everything I do every single day.
Yeah,
So
I was gonna say, I feel like every day for him, I couldn't live like
Yeah,
that. Man. Like
It's a risk, you know what I'm saying? Like
Jumping off a cliff, no parachute. You don't know if that thing is
yeah,
gonna open at
literally
the end,
is
right?
like walking a tightrope every single day and like just having faith that, you know, everything's just gonna work out.
Yeah.
Which I admire, you know.
Yeah, it's like that for me probably was the
Probably pushes you too, Brandon, to
Yeah,
do
for
certain
sure.
things.
Yeah. Like there's things that I'll be like thinking about, like be nervous or a little scared about, and I'll be like, man, like Frank is in a situation where this would be a walk in the park or something. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, just having that forward mind and focus forward.
I appreciate the time, guys, for sure. So why don't you let the people know where they can find you on socials, and just wrap it up from there.
my name is FrankHaveMercy, FrankHaveMercy on every platform. FrankHaveMercy. I appreciate y'all having me.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for coming out.
Thanks for coming out, man.
Of course.
And Brandon Nixon, it's Knox and B on all platforms, and that's B Nixon spelled backwards for anyone that needs to spell them.
Thanks a lot, guys. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can find us at Last Flight Out Podcast. You can find me at JLurio26.
Mike, if Mike was here.
Peace.
Let's
See you guys
get it.
next week.
My life too pristine.
Man, you didn't have to do them like that, man. You didn't have to do them like that.
Yo, it's film day.
Yeah.
We gotta make a statement.
Exactly. We gotta make a last
What's
flight
going
out.
on, man?
Flat out.